Morning, Fractal Effects team. Please make sure you read the disclosure before we get started. If you're following along with us today, make sure you do in a demo account, as this is for educational purposes only. We are not financial advisors, and this is not financial advice. Let's jump onto the charts. Here we have NAS on the left. We had a downside expansion model. Sorry, the charts are a little slow. We had a downside expansion model. We're below the blue zone. We manipulated to the upside first. So that was a sell-off. Market dropped pretty quick. Pretty big dip. Now it looks like it's trying to retrace its way back up to the 20 EMA. We'll see what kind of confirmation we get. We're red across the board. In instances like this, after a drop like this, now keep in mind there are people that are short and they see this big drop, and maybe they missed this move, so they're waiting for a retracement back to the 20 EMA and or whatever their levels might be, and they're looking to take another sell. But when a drop like this occurs, the market could actually just come back and fill it in. Look at all these relative equal highs it left behind. So when it leaves that behind, not to mention today is Thursday, and what do we do on Thursday? We retrace to the weekly range. Here's the weekly range right there in the aqua line. We're already well below it, so it could just go touch the weekly range and give us our bearish confirmation, or we could push through, get a bullish confirmation, and go hit that top of the weekly range and previous day high. So those are our levels, but since we wait for confirmation, we won't get trapped here. This is where most people get trapped. The ones that are going to be going short off this fair value gap and off the 20 EMA. Or there are people that are already long from here, think that the market's going to push up. Which it could. As mentioned before, we have these equal relative highs. We have the top of the weekly range. That's what I'd like to see. I'd like to see the market continue up and give us a bullish confirmation. But we're just going to wait it out. But yeah, for anybody who was doing the blue zone strategy this morning, we did have news drop at 8:30 Eastern Standard Time, so I usually like to avoid New York Open when there is news drop that early. But we had a mixed model. We had a bit of a mixed model that left these equal relative highs, and then here's our manipulation move. Let me zoom in. Pretty big drop. So here's our manipulation range that was painted out by our indicator. There's the top of the range, that green line. And I believe the bottom of the range is right under the NWOG. You can zoom in. Oh, it's right here. So it's kind of covered up by the spotlight indicator. So there's the bottom of our range, as mentioned before. Here's the top. So we manipulate it up, and all you need is a wick to count as a manipulation. So it manipulated up, and then you could have caught a 1M fair value gap, but here's the 5M fair value gap right in here between this candle and this green candle. And then the market came back up, tapped it, and dropped. Now you could have taken the bottom of the range as your TP, or the bottom of London lows, and then it created this blue zone, which now the market is magnetically drawn to. So whichever way this market goes next, the decision will be most likely made up here. And then the equal relative highs and our levels are up there. With the US 30 here, we've had no other confirmation across any other asset, so we'll just watch the indices for now. We're getting close to a bearish confirmation on US 30. Let me just zoom in. So there's the bottom of the manipulation range. I believe the top is right there, right into the green. So with US 30, we just confirm that. Is that what I'm seeing right there? Yeah, that's the top of the range. So with US 30, we manipulated down first. So manipulated down, came back up into the range, and then we had a double break. Remember, when we have a double break in the direction of the manipulation, you can either expect a deep retracement and a continuation in that direction. We didn't get a deep retracement. I guess you could call this like it was a small range. So it retraced back to the weekly range, the aqua, and then it pushed in the direction of the double break. And now we just got a bearish confirmation. So everything is looking bearish for US 30. I'd like to see a retracement to this fair value gap. I want to see it touch that 20 EMA since it hasn't touched after that drop. Then we have NAS. Either we're going to get a bearish confirmation first, or NAS is going to bounce off this fair value gap, go touch the blue zone first, and then bounce off of that, which is most likely. So we should get, since this is the only 5M fair value gap that was created after this drop, should get a tap and back past the 20 and into the blue, and then we'll see what it does here. And I've told you a million times, just because I know where it's going doesn't mean I'm going to take it. I know there's going to be a big decision made here. High probability, very high probability. We're not fortune tellers, but we use probabilities and statistics to figure out exactly where the market's going. So even though I have a big bias in in this zone right here, doesn't mean that I'm going to take this buy into this zone. Because right now, everything's red across the board. We have a red box, we have a downside expansion model, and we're below the blue zone. So I want to see where that confirmation comes from. Is it going to be a bullish confirmation or a bearish confirmation? But I see it bouncing off of this fair value gap and most likely hitting the blue zone right here first. US 30 has given us that bearish confirmation now. Now let's just wait for that retracement. Aussie New Zealand has also given us a confirmation. Let's wait it out. I want to see it come up here. I'm not interested in this fair value gap on US 30. US 30 looks like the more interesting asset right now. There's a lot more confluence here. We already know that this thing wants to push down. Here, we don't know which direction it actually wants to go yet. My bias is still to the upside to take out those equal relative highs. Another telltale sign is when it wicks the manipulation zone but doesn't actually close above it. See that? Like it just wicked it. Barely wicked it too. But that's enough for us to get that bias of a downside drop, but then it wants to come back and actually take that out. So that's why my bias is still bullish. But we have no confirmation as of yet. Remember, what does confirmation do? It increases our probability. Second we get confirmation. What is today? Today is Thursday. Remember, you can filter this data by the day. Sorry, anytime we go live, it slows down all of our instruments here. Oh yeah, sorry, NDR. Remember, that's the New York dealing range. That's the one that we want to focus on. So today, 71.5% chance that once that range has been, once we get a confirmation above or below that range, 71% chance that it will not break the other side. 84.3% chance that it will retrace back into the same range, allowing us to get an entry. These are the probabilities we want to stick to, with a possible extension of 2.6 standard deviations. Use this aggregate, 20 years of aggregate. Same aggregate that allowed us to, now we're sitting, here's the leap contest again. We're now 6% of all participants, sitting at 30.98% in 17 days. This contest started on the 3rd of February. Again, there's the leaderboard. We're not trying to compete with these guys who are sitting at 5 million at 2%. 2,000%, over 2,000% profit gained in 17 days. These people are over leveraged and over trading, probably trading all day long. But look what a normal person trading at a 1 to 2% with the right risk to reward, 30.98%, mostly in the Asia range, as mentioned before. New York's been pretty sloppy. Let's go back to NAS. We're still bouncing near that fair value gap. US 30, I'm not interested until it comes back here and shows me what it's going to do here. And no other confirmation as of yet. Just patiently waiting and watching. And we'll go over that. There actually was an Asia trade last night as well on gold, so I'll go over that in a little bit. I just want to see, let's just watch NAS for a couple more candles and see exactly what it wants to do. Getting some reaction off that fair value gap. Or what do we say? Hit a fair value gap, create a fair value gap. Let's check on the 1M. Are we creating any green fair value gaps yet? No. So it could just cut right through this 5M fair value gap, but we want to wait and see. Keep in mind the levels always adjust when you drop time frames. You can go up to the 15M, and both strategies will adapt and paint out new blue zones. We're sitting in a massive blue zone, and we're right at the midpoint of that 15M blue zone. That's why this is where big decisions will be made, as mentioned before, regardless of what time frame you're on. Let's drop down to the 1M. US 30, I want to see if it taps this fair value gap. If this becomes a runaway gap, meaning it doesn't get filled in, the market could continue to drop, but this is where we're interested right now still for US 30. We've closed below that 5M fair value gap. Let's see if this next candle closes back in the range or if it continues to drop. Nothing as of interest yet. 1 minute 39 seconds to close. I want to see if this fair value gap stays open. If it does, then we might just get a push. NAS continuing to drop. Nothing interesting here. We can even jump back up to the 5. We did just get a confirmation from GBP USD. So let's switch NADs for now, since US30 already gave us a confirmation. GBP USD. Make sure your watch list has all the assets that you're following, so you can jump back and forth as quickly as possible. Excuse me. So GBP USD just gave us a bullish confirmation. So there's the manipulation range. We manipulated up first, came back down to midpoint, swept out these lows, and then broke twice to the manipulation side. So now we're primarily looking for bullish moves. So that falls in suit with our bullish confirmation. And right now, this is the fair value gap of interest. Right here. I want to see the 20 EMA come up into it. Yeah, we have a buy model. Heavy buy model with the blue zone. And we have an upside expansion model. So everything is just falling in suit. This is completely bullish. We're also green across the board. Only the daily time frame is bearish. Now we've already taken out previous day's high right there in the yellow line. There's previous day's highs, previous day's lows. Also Thursday likes to retrace back to the weekly range, which it's already touched. So now I want to see it come touch this 20 EMA. Let's see what kind of reaction we get. That's the play we'd be looking for GBP USD. US30 has left that fair value gap open, which makes it a runaway gap. So that means it could keep dropping and then come back up. I'm still only interested after it touches that 20 EMA. And I want to see where it touches it. I'd like to see it touch it inside the range and not outside the range. Higher probability in here. Let's just watch and see what happens. Still got a little bit of time. Still got some retracement to go here. Just give it a minute. My apologies there, actually. I think we might have had some streaming issue. I think we're fine now. Still just waiting. Nothing of interest as of yet. GBP USD extremely bullish. And US30 right now extremely bearish. Just wait and watch. just frozen there with GBP USD, US 30, similar. Now that we've pushed past that fair value gap, I want to see what happens down here, but I do want to see it touch that 20. Not making a move until then. Slowly starting to get a move here now. Let's see. Just crawling right now. See what happens there. Again, red across the board for US 30. Could get an interesting move here. GBP USD. Looks like it wants to do that retracement now. Our 20 EMA sitting right inside that fair value gap. Our blue zone's pretty small today. There's our blue zone. And remember, the darker the zone, the stronger it is. So there's our blue zone, and there's the top of our weekly range. We don't want to see it retrace that deep, but the other thing, actually, I just realized, is we have yet to tap the opening NYC fair value gap. It was never tapped. So let's see what happens here. But I want to see a lot of confluence to let me know this thing wants to push up, because it's already taken out previous day's highs. Taking out previous day's highs, the original manipulation move was to the upside. That means there could be a deep retracement if it wants to go up. So it could actually retrace all the way back here. I want to see it touch this fair value gap and touch the 20 and give me a green fair value gap first. Waiting for a green fair value gap on the 5M. Just patiently waiting. If it takes off from here, it takes off. That's fine. These are the telltale signs you get used to just recognizing. That manipulation range. You want to tap it. You want to push down against it. But then when you see it not take out the bottom of the manipulation range, you see it come back up and break, the double break. That means it wants to run at least to a higher PD array, which it already has, previous day high. But then it does want to actually do a deeper retracement. That's just a pattern I've recognized over time, especially when you see this much confluence where here's the weekly range, today being Thursday, NYC fair value gap left, completely open, and the blue zone right under it. This is a highly algorithmic zone that the market is drawn to, especially now that it's swept out all these higher time frame PD arrays, swept out all the different previous sessions, and it's taken out previous day high. So I wouldn't be surprised that it cuts right through this fair value gap back to this zone. US 30 is still more of the interesting asset to look at. Not really giving us much right now, but still, there's more confluence here. I don't expect a deep retracement on US 30. Extremely bearish. I see it coming back up and tapping the 20 and then continuing to run. Where could it run to? I want to see if our one standard deviation, looks like it might even hit the one standard deviation, but so now we're on the 7-hour higher time frame here. So it's already swept out these lows. Could run to these lows. Big fair value gap in here. I'll just run it to here. Now we've already ran that, so could be heading to the 238 and those lows, which seem to line up. Let's drop back down to the 5M. Now let's see if this thing's going to give us an entry. Not much of a range. Turn on the standard deviation so we know where we're going here. I suspect we've already passed one standard deviation though. No, yeah, so one standard deviation close to those lows. So that's our low-hanging fruit, but we need to get a good entry. Otherwise it doesn't really make any sense. So we want to see a retracement back to at least this fair value gap. Would that give us our 1 to 3 from here? I'll just take it to one standard deviation as opposed to this low. So that would give us our 3 if we got in here. Looks like it might be drawing up, heading towards our 20 EMA. Hopefully it happens in the next 23 minutes before we conclude this session. So if you've been following along with us, I got some homework for you guys today. Make sure you do some back testing. As I said this before, you want to make these strategies your own. Be able to recognize these patterns. Know your risk to reward. Back test the last week. Go over your notes. You should be journaling after every single trading day. What were the areas of confluence? Why did you enter a trade? Why did you exit a trade? Could you have entered at a better place, and why could you have exited at a better place, and why? You should be journaling all of this information. As we progress and when we grow the back end, we'll also be adding a trading journal to the back of our dashboard. So as soon as you're done trading, you can just go in there. It'll ask you literally, what asset were you trading? Where did you enter? Where did you exit? And then it'll be notes. As simple as that. But you should be journaling every single day so you can come back and not only see what you could have done better, but at the same time, if you had made those adjustments, what would your P&L be sitting at? GBP USD just taking off again, not interested. There was no fair value gap in here. After confirmation, it never touched a fair value gap, did not touch the 20. If anything else, this is kind of giving me more cadence that this thing actually wants to do a deeper retracement. So it's taking people for a ride to possibly trap them up here. It's bouncing off the top of the dealing range. And the people who see all this gesticulation, see it as support and resistance, they take it. And then we might drop and get a deeper retracement actually. So still more interested in the US 30. Let's take a peek at NAS. See what that's doing right now. NAS back at that same fair value gap. So it dropped. Rejected 50% of the consequence encroachment of this wick. Right there. Oops. %50 of that wick, and now it's pushing up. That means on a 1 minute time frame, it filled in all the little fair value gaps here. So this is giving more cadence to the fact that this thing actually wants to go up and head towards that blue zone now, most likely. But still no confirmation here. Still not an interesting enough asset to be watching. US 30 now slowly coming back into that fair value gap, and I do mean slowly. It is taking its precious time. It's good to stimulate yourself. Make sure you have maybe some music playing in the background when you're trading, be it Mozart or pretty much anything that you would listen to if you were studying for something. Study music is actually great when you're trading, stimulates your brain. Even your body, if you're sitting there too long, make sure you stand up, stretch a little bit, especially during these longer lulls where you're just waiting for the price to come back. And if you have to, like, for example, go to the bathroom or answer a phone call, set an alert right here. Just set an alert so you know that it's crossed that zone. It's not going to be that instant. You still got a minute or two to come back and see if there's actually a fair value gap being presented, etc. There we go. Now it's slowly starting to push up. Said it before, I want to see what happens here. This is the area of interest. Are you going to push down from here or push up through? This is kind of giving more cadence that this thing actually does want to push up and take out these equal relative highs, but we'll see. Nothing is 100%. So as mentioned before, the blue zone highly algorithmic zone that the market is just drawn to. Wants to get up there, wants to touch it, just like it wants to touch the 20 and or the 50, the 238. One minute left. Let's see if it leaves this fair value gap open. Taps that and continues past it. So even though we have a downside expansion model, we have a red box, my bias is still bullish, even though we're red across the board. So if this fair value gap stays open, ideally we would not like to see the market drop below that point. Keep an eye on it, but again, not something I'm interested in right now. I'd be interested to see what happens here. US 30, giving the 20 EMA time to get back into this fair value gap. I'm going to get rid of this one. It's just kind of cluttering everything. Still is yet to touch that 20 EMA. Remember, if it takes off without us and it hits that one standard deviation, that's fine. Sweeps out these lows, that's okay. It took off without us. It only made sense from up here. 1 to 3 only makes sense from up here. There's no 1 to 3 from here to here. That's the other reason I always tell you, just because I know where it's going doesn't mean that there's enough room for me to actually get a trade in. If I can't get my 1 to 3, I've turned down trades that are 1 to 2. And I know exactly where it's going to go and it hits that area. It just doesn't matter. Stick to your rules. Do not break them. It's no different than taking the same path home every single day from work. And then that one day you deviate and you take a shortcut and you get into a car accident. It wouldn't have happened if you stuck to your path, right? That's our rules. You live by them, you die by them. Especially when you know that there's high probability behind those rules. They're not just random rules. You wrote them down specifically because they're supposed to prevent you getting into a low probability trade, and they're supposed to help with capital preservation. Those are the two primary things. Your risk to reward has to make sense. And I've said it before, I've had students, users send me screenshots of their trade as if they were looking for some kind of a gold star from me. And I look at it and it's not even it's barely a 1-to-1 risk to reward. And they're risking a lot more. They've increased their lot size. So they're over leveraged going for a 1-to-1. That's nothing to brag about. I don't care if you won that trade. I don't care if it crossed your take profit. What did you gain? What if it turned against you? You would have been scared out of your mind. We're back at this fair value gap here on NAS. As mentioned before, I want to see if it just bounces off of this. I don't want to see these lows taken. I want to see it get up to the blue zone, but nothing of interest here yet. US 30, just gesticulating. That's a lot of consolidation. So what happens when you see a lot of consolidation? That means the market makers are engineering new liquidity there. There are people going short, there are people going long. Not much to go long from here, though. But there are people going short from this fair value gap right here. So they want to run those stops, possibly tap the 20, maybe even go higher, maybe tap the 50, and then drop it. It's even better up here. Way more risk to reward, or our RR is way better from up here. So we'll see, wait and watch, but it's definitely not good from here. right? So there's a fair value gap in there for anybody taking it from here. Where's your stop going to be? Your stop doesn't change. That's the leg. Leg's still up here, right? You don't measure from the gap, you measure from the leg. And to one standard deviation, that's a 1.55. Not worth it. We got about 10 minutes left. I'd like to see a trade setup. But I only want to see it from up here or up here. If NAS takes out this low, breaks past this, takes this low out, this is not even a market worth looking at right now. That means there's no consistency here. Too much manipulation happening. I want to see it stay above this, use this fair value gap, and then drive into this blue zone. And then maybe even take out these equal relative highs. On the 1 minute, let's see what it's doing. Remember, hit a fair value gap, create a fair value gap. Is that what it's doing? So we hit it. We have yet to create a fair value gap. US 30 also giving us a whole bunch of nothing right now. So we've left this fair value gap. Let's see what happens when the market taps into it. If it taps into it. Still no confirmation. Just doing some ticker tape reading to see if it drives all the way up here and gives us our confirmation. These charts can get a little annoying as far as the scrolling through them. While that's figuring its way out, let's check out GBP USD. Still nothing from US 30. Does not want to run those stops yet. I honestly don't see it making that push down until it does. So that's why I'm just waiting. Paint dry, right? That's fine. I'd rather watch paint dry. What do we have here? What did it just do? Oh, there's your drop. So this is GBP USD. So hit the 20. I want to see a 5M fair value gap be created. Otherwise, this thing could continue to push down. Usually we look for a 1M, but as mentioned before, when you have a double break, the weekly range is below you. The blue zone is below you. There could be a deeper retracement into New York fair value gap into the 50. About 4 minutes left in our stream. I'd like to see some kind of movement happen here. It's just been that kind of a week. Keep in mind, you're going to get that kind of a week regardless of where you work. At least this one's on your time. Let's see what GBP USD is doing on the 1M. So it's barely touched that fair value gap. It's given us no green fair value gap on the 1M. So lets me know that it could just again continue to drop. Nothing from US 30. We got 2 minutes left in our stream. Please make sure you check us out on fractaleffects.com, where we teach high probability trading. We've adjusted some of our monthly plans. Please have a look. Make sure you're reading the blogs and the Market Watch. We've given you all this information. The blogs are free. Market Watch, you should be reading that. Spend 1 day a week if you're a user. Spend 1 day a week on a Sunday, for example, Read over the market watch. You're going to see all what the analysts are saying, what the industry professionals are saying about specific stocks. Our goal is to grow that out. We have an entire team just working on market watch now. They're doing their research. They're bringing you specific industry information on all these different sectors. Make sure you read through it. It's part of your package. You'll be able to find amazing, amazing investment opportunities there. Remember, we can't give investment advice. That's why we've interviewed the analysts. You can see what they're saying about specific stocks and about specific sectors. Do top-down market analysis. Set alerts. Remember, those are longer holds. You set an alert and maybe it'll hit that alert later in the week. So that's our time. Unfortunately, we didn't get that move. I'm still interested in that tap of that 20 and then a push down to the 1 standard deviation. GBP USD looks like it's making a push here. It's creating a 1M fair value gap, but it's a little past our time now. Plus, I get the feeling that it might drop a little lower. Somewhere here. But we will be live next week. So have a great rest of the week and the weekend. And again, make sure you back test, make sure you read all the material that's made available to you. And we'll see you guys next week. Take care.